Have you ever had plants where you're thinking, oh, if only I'd known that when I first got that plant? I'm with you on that one. And today, I want to talk about my experiences with some plants where I'm just like, ah, if only I'd known that. Hi, my name is Memo, this is my channel, Houseplantygoodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see them behind me, it's tropical houseplants. So yes, as I just said, I'm sure a lot of us have had that where you're just like, oh, if only I had known this about this specific plant, it would have made the journey so much easier. The plant would have been happier, it would have grown more consistently, it would have grown faster, larger, better, if only I'd known X. And in this video, I encourage all of you, if you've got 2 or 3 plants that you've learned something really important about that maybe not that many people talk about, or nobody for that matter, please do let us all know down below in the comments. It'd be nice if this video becomes a bit of a repository of information for other people that are maybe just starting off and just kind of going, I've got this plant, I wonder what I need to do with it. Down below, just put your comments down below. So yes, without further ado, I think I'm just going to look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 plants. There might be a 5th one, if I can squeeze it in, that I want to talk about today. And let's start with a relatively common plant. Ta-da! The humble ZZ plant. And I'll bring it up so you can kind of have a look at it. This one's looking a bit peaky. I've got a few of these. They're sat by my front door that has a bit of a window, so it gets okay light. But, so they could be a bit bigger, they could be a bit happier, but they're okay for what I need them to be. So a few things that I've learned that I wish I knew about this plant a while back. First, don't believe the hype where it said that this plant thrives in low light. No plant, broken record. I know we've all said this several times before. No plant thrives in low light in the house, because low light in the jungle, where you've got the canopy and you've got like trickling of light, is an entirely different story to in the house. I encourage you, if you've ever got a chance and you want to geek out a bit about this and you've got a light meter app on your phone that you might have been using for like grow lights or light levels in your house, next time you're out in nature, if you're in a park, if you're in a kind of wooded, foresty type area, when you're there, do a reading outside of the park, outside from underneath the cover of the trees, see what the light level is there, and then do another one underneath the trees. And just keep in mind what those 2 readings are going to be. And then, in your house, go to the location where it's low light and put the light meter there and see how that stacks up. I would hazard a guess with that one that it is considerably lower in your household environment, possibly getting close to 0 light, even if you think it's low light. So no plant can survive on hardly any or 0 light. Maybe a Ficus plasticus, so an artificial plant, would be great for there. But yes, so that's the first thing that I wish I knew when I first started with ZZ plants is, you know what? Yes, this can, and I hesitate to use the word survive. It's just dying off slower. It'll be okay in low to medium light, probably more the medium light situation. And this is getting medium to bright indirect light. However, put this plant, put any ZZ plant in a bright indirect location. I know the slight caveat of that might be the ZZ Raven. I still haven't figured that one out. If you have, and maybe the ZZ Raven doesn't need, so the dark, the almost black ZZ plant, doesn't need bright indirect light, but maybe it does a better and more consistent growth in medium light. I don't know. I would still, based on my experiences, I would still say, not that I've had a chance to test it, but I would still say that that probably needs bright indirect light. But yes, bright indirect light for a ZZ plant. Do not listen to the fake news that is get this onto a low light position. I know, before anybody says this, we all want to find plants that will do well in low light conditions because we've all got those spaces in our house that we maybe want to put a bit of green. There is also the realization there that unless you are heavily into botany and you can truly find something that survives on very little in the house as well, then the reality is you're either not going to have a plant there or just get an artificial plant. I know people do not like artificial plants for many reasons, plastics, all of these things, I get it. But it might just not be meant to be there. The other thing that I want to say about this that I wish I knew, that I've learned along the way, is if you dare water this plant more often than you pay your mortgage or your rent, you are watering it too much. And I am talking year round on that one. So, this is the thing, again, wish I knew this. This is a plant that everybody says is super easy. Overwaterers, come to the front. That comment is not for us, and I'm including myself in that because I am an overwaterer. That comment is not for us. This plant really isn't for us. Yeah? No. Underwaterers, this might be one for you. But yeah, like, I know people have talked about this before, but bright indirect light, I've learned this the hard way, and it will do a lot better. And don't water it very frequently. Like, this is one of the plants where I'm just like, it's bone dry. It's been bone dry for weeks. It's fine. It's fine. You do need to water it, but yeah, it's... Leave it, forget it, water it when you can remember. Let's put it this way. My brother, who is very laissez-faire and very laid back about a lot of things, I wish I was like him. He got all the chill in the family. I got none. He can grow this plant stupid happily, but at the same time, I know that he doesn't like obsess about watering and stuff like that. That plant gets watered 2-3 times a year whenever he can be bothered and he can remember it, and it's just like, oh, I'm in the right time frame and I've seen you and maybe you need a drink of water, I will water you. This thing is a tree in his house. So yes, wish I knew that about the ZZ plant. The next one might surprise a lot of people, possibly the people that have seen my videos recently, maybe not so much, but a blue star fern that is mounted. And that is the big thing that I wish I knew back when. Now, I will quickly caveat this. That was a lot of words. Quickly caveat this, because apparently words. I will quickly caveat the fact to say that the reason why this is in a mount, or on a mount, I don't know what the right English is there, is because this plant grows as an epiphyte. So the thing I wish I knew is that not all ferns are terrestrial. And by that I mean growing in the ground. Because the conversation that generally most of the plant community, or like the old school knowledge, is ferns are super thirsty plants. So nobody would ever consider putting a fern on something like a mount, because you do this with like orchids and things like that, where you need them to dry out quickly and to not stay sapping wet. So of course you wouldn't think to put an orchid into something like this. So yeah, it's almost it's the same kind of reasoning. You're just like, why would I put an orchid in a cactus soil mix? I'm just going to be watering it all the time. It's not what it needs. It needs dense soil. This is not only on a mount, and it could be any mount. It could be a traditional kind of wooden back mount with a bit of sphagnum moss wrapped around it. This could also work quite well, I would guess. I haven't done this for a very long time in something like a kokodama. But on the inside, underneath the sphagnum moss, I have actually got the airiest, chunkiest anthurium soil mix from Soil Ninja for a fern in a mount with sphagnum moss over it. This is bone dry. This is bone dry. This plant, I've had it in here less than a month. It has doubled in size. I got it small because I wanted to test this, basically. Like mad. So yes, check, check, check. The thing that I wish I knew is to check when it comes to ferns, and everybody's like, I can't grow a fern for the life of me. Like, I can't keep them happy. Their watering needs are ridiculous. Check if yours is an epiphyte, because if it is an epiphyte, then you can mount it, and it makes your life a lot easier. It needs a lot less watering, a lot less frequently. But then the other part of that equation, the other thing that I wish I knew about nearly all ferns. Remember we were talking about light for ZZ plants. These are other plants that everybody's just like, if you want low light and you're an overwaterer, this is for us, the overwaterers. Ironically enough, mounted ferns, maybe not for the overwaterers. So if you've been underwaterer and you've always wondered, I could never grow a fern. Epiphytic ferns. And I think people kind of have made that connection, and they don't find it so weird when they think of something like a staghorn fern. That's a fern. And most people will grow that on a mound, and it's just like, oh. I don't think a lot of people made that connection and go, maybe there's other ferns that could be mounted. So, and this is not the only one, by the way. There's other ferns that would do quite well. The other part of the equation, though, same thing I was talking about light with ZZ plant. Bright indirect light. I know. And actually something I've learned as a whole by caring for plants, unless there's a very, very, very specific plant, that desperately needs medium, it will never need low light, but medium light, most houseplants, will do better in bright indirect light. The reason why we don't want that to be the case is because we only have so much bright indirect light to give these plants, especially if you've got a lot. I appreciate that's not everybody. But yeah, mounting epiphytic ferns, so much faster, so much easier, absolutely no crisping whatsoever. Decent light levels and good airflow. Again, not all ferns. Some ferns are terrestrial and they do follow all the edicts that you need to have them in slightly like more moisture retaining soil, all these things. The light level applies to all of them. Oh, and one of my favorite genuses is next, and this is the Piper rubesioides. Now, I know a lot of people maybe have given up on Pipers. I understand, because they can be, or at least they're considered by a lot to be difficult plants or hard to keep happy. And before you say this, I know there's going to be people going, but you're growing them in a conservatory. You're probably growing them in like almost terrarium conditions. Yes and no, because I have most of my Pipers, including this one, I've had cuttings, I've propagated, and they are growing happily in my house in semi-hydro. In ponds specifically. But the thing that I wish I knew about Pipers, which would have made my transition better and easier further back when I was first starting with them, is these plants, much more similar to the kind of traditional care that we are told about ferns, whilst I drop it, about ferns. So this is a plant that needs to be evenly moist. And this can worry a few people, but you know what? Again, I'm going to call them the overwaterers. Come to the front. This is one for us, yeah? So, what I mean by that is, I have grown Pipers in denser soil mixes. Fine. I have grown this is in a anthurium soil mix. Should I have gone for denser? Yes. A lot of the plants that need a denser soil, generally I find, are going to be more forgiving in lighter soils. This is one that desperately needs denser soil. So to put some context, this is looking a bit floppy at the moment because it needs watered. When was the last time this was watered? By the way, this is bone dry. This is one of the few times this has ever gone bone dry, and that is touching on what I've learned. But this got watered 2 days ago. 2 days ago, it needs watering again. So the thing that I wish I knew when I was first starting with Pipers is Consistency is key, and almost to the same level, that kind of commentary that a lot of people have about ficuses is they like a schedule and a routine, which a lot of plants, you should never be watering on a routine. It should be when they are in need of water. I have found that pipers appreciate a routine. And by that I mean, you will be watering them, at least in my experience, year round, the same amount of times. The only change that really happens is now on really hot days, and it just means that I'm watering it even more frequently. But these plants need to be evenly moist. So what you think you need to do for ferns, you need to be doing with this. Ironically enough, for ferns, you probably don't need to be watering them anywhere near as much as you think you do, because a lot of people lose ferns from low light conditions and overwatering than anything else. But this is one that does appreciate having moisture at all times. Moist, not sapping wet or bog-like, so just bear that in mind. But as a whole, these plants get that right, absolute gems to grow. And one of the rare few plants that I have found will grow happier in medium light. Bright indirect light for these, will they be okay? Yes, you'll be watering at a stupid rate, but medium light is their kind of groove. So if you've got a couple of places that don't get the best light, easy. And yes, people are just like, oh, you should be mounting this. I have grown my pipers trailing. I have my Sarmentosum, which is more of an upright, and I just let that grow like a bit of a tree. My Sylvaticum, my Crocatum, I have vined around the place. They are relatively forgiving plants, as long as you remember that. Medium light, and this is again what I've learned, your experiences might differ, do tell us down below, but medium light and evenly moist. That's all it is. That is literally all it is. These are less, when you crack it, these are a hell of a lot less fussy than even alocasias. So that should tell you something. So yes, don't be sleeping on the pipers. Let's move on to a philodendron. So this is the Philodendron atapapoensis. So with the kind of more maroon backs, and I'll bring it in so you can kind of see it. It's kind of maybe coming up a bit brown. There we go. I'll see if I can get some light on it. But, or maybe I'll just do this. You can kind of see it on the new leaf there. It comes in as a brighter kind of maroon color when it's first emerging. So this is the newest leaf. So what have I learned about this? And it doesn't just apply to the Atapapoense. It applies to a lot of houseplants, not just philodendrons and not specifically this. There are certain plants, and let me hold your hand whilst I say this, because I know a lot of my audience do not like moss poles. I get it. And I'm saying this specifically for you so you know, because I think this would be a very important kind of care information that a lot of the sellers should tell you about plants. I'm talking about big online shops, or even like the garden centers, those horrendous little tags that they put on there where most of us who've been growing plants for long enough would just throw them in the bin. Because unlike most things, it's not an RTFM? I will let you Google that. It's to do with manuals. Cannot say it on here. But yeah, that most of the time those instructions are so generic, they don't count. But an instructions, and something that I wish I knew, is that a lot of houseplants are what a lot of people are calling obligate climbers. So with some plants, with certain plants, you need not to just give them a janky support stick. A lot of houseplants will be absolutely fine on janky support sticks, which to me, they might be climbers, but they're not necessarily obligate climbers. I know it might not be in exactly the right terminology there, but for the obligate climbers, the ones that need to attach to something to grow, you need to put them on moss poles. You do. There's just no two ways around it. Will they still grow without one? Probably. And yes. Will the leaves not get particularly larger? Will it struggle to grow? Will you be wondering, why is my plant taking forever to grow? Probably also yes. Again, not always the case, but a lot of the times. So there are certain plants, and that's again where you kind of see the distinction in my head towards a climber or an obligate climber. So some plants are going to be more adaptable. I'm bringing this up as an example. I do also have this. No, I think both of mine are on moss poles. I've got another one of the mother plant. This is the propagate, by the way. This was a bit that got chopped off by accident. But this is a plant that I've grown on a moss pole, both of them. The other one is coming off the moss pole, as is this at the moment. And it's not doing as well off the moss pole. And there are a lot of plants that are like that. An example of a plant that's similar looking to this, that doesn't necessarily need a moss pole, but it's doing okay on just the janky support stick, is the Philodendron Bilietiae. So that one, fine. Doesn't need a moss pole, needs a bit of a janky support stick, if nothing else, to just give it a bit of stability. That one is fine, but that one grows exceptionally slow. One of my most consistent growers, but very, very slow, and so slept on, by the way. The Bilietiae, just the standard green one, I know there was a lot of people going on about the variegated one. I'm just like, oh my God, variegated plants are slow. The Bilietiae as a whole is a slow plant. I wouldn't even want to touch that with a barge pole. But massively slept on plant, massively slept on, and underrated as well. Such a beautiful plant with those orange petioles and the leaves that do the things. Oh, fantastic. Wish it was bigger and more popular, but again, I get it if it takes so long to grow. But coming back, sorry, off topic memo, stay on topic. Obligate climbers. Knowing that in the beginning of my journey with a lot of plants would have made a big difference. And as I said, if the retailers told us this, that would be great. Or at least if there was common discourse online. Because everybody's just like, you know what, we know that, for instance, I was talking about before, that like ferns need lower light, they don't. Or ZZ plants need to not be watered as frequently, correct. I would like the knowledge of that to be the same for a lot of plants that are obligate climbers, where in the same breath that you say it needs X light or it needs this to be happy, you follow it up with it needs a moss pole. It is an obligate climber. So much time, effort would be saved for that one. And also a lot of heartache, because for a lot of people, and as I said, I appreciate that a lot of my audience do not like moss poles. I get you. But I think from a lot of you, from what you've said in my comments, you actually want to know this information because it might be a plant that you want to steer clear of, because you just don't want to get involved with moss poles. Absolutely fine. But also I am saying this for the people who maybe don't like moss poles and maybe are okay doing one or two for the right plant, then at least having that information when you're at the time of purchasing it or when you're in the time of searching for it would help. I also appreciate the irony, because a lot of us do zero research before we buy a plant, and it's only after you've bought the plant that you're just like, oh, maybe I should have looked at even just the basic description on the plant seller's website before I bought it, rather than just go, oh, you are so pretty, you are coming home with me. Don't lie, don't lie, I know a lot of us have done this. And then you may be stuck with a plant that you're just like, ugh, this now needs a moss pole. I like it, it's pretty, but I don't know if it's pretty enough for me to want to deal with a moss pole. At that point, you can decide what you want to do with the plant. But yeah, I think it's good if they tell you straight out of the bat, and then you can make that decision. I understand that as businesses, maybe the reason why they don't tell you this is because they know that they maybe won't sell as easily, because a lot of people, especially the beginners and maybe some of the more intermediate people when it comes to houseplants, they maybe really don't want to faff with moss poles. They might do later on in their planty journey, but maybe in the beginning they find it a bit too much, which is understandable. But yeah, I think knowing who the obligate climbers are would just make everybody's life so much easier. Okay, and I'll wrap up with the final one, which is a Calathea. Granted, this one is looking a bit crusty, but anybody who's ever owned a white fusion understands why this is looking crusty. But the big thing, oh, and also I will show you this, the Calathea white fusion that I have has got a bloom. So you might be able, if I hide myself there, you can see the little tiny bloom. Now, the thing that I wish I knew when starting off with a lot of the Calatheas, if not all, is ignore the dense soil advice. I have been growing my Calatheas for a very long time, and I've done a whole video about this as well, and I'll kind of link it at the top, in chunky aroid soil mixes. Probably wouldn't go as far as putting them into something like an anthurium mix, but something that you would grow your philodendrons or your monsteras in, absolutely perfect. Do not go and put this into something that you would maybe grow a ground-dwelling fern in, or even something that you think is good for Calatheas because it's denser and all these things. No. Airy soil mixes, and another thing I wish I knew is, again, to ignore the level of information that's out there for Calatheas going, you need to keep it evenly moist at all times. I know there's a couple that you need to, and I'm looking at the pinstripe Calathea here. Broke so many people's hearts. But a lot of the Calatheas actually don't mind going a touch dry before being watered. You'll see it, you'll get to know your plant quite quickly, and you can see the kind of damage that's done there because when the seasons changed, I didn't pick it fast enough that this needed to be watered a bit more frequently. But you get to know the plant relatively quickly where you're just like, okay, I'm going to let it go towards dry. And the moment, so I'll give you more a specific example that, again, I wish I knew back then. So say I've watered this on a Monday. I'll just watch it. I'm not going to put a plan to waters. I'll just watch it. Tuesday goes by, Wednesday goes by, Thursday goes by, Friday goes by. By Saturday, I am starting to see that the plant is maybe rolling in on itself. It's maybe a bit too dry. So then I know, instead of leaving a plant from Monday until Friday, Saturday, I can't remember which day it was that I saw the curling, I might go Monday to Thursday, Monday to Friday, and then water on the Friday or the Thursday. That is the Goldilocks region for this plant. So it's just before. I mean, I know I'm saying this because I know some people don't like using the moisture meters. Moisture meters is a slightly easier way of doing that. I know not everybody likes them, but yeah, that. Also, because I've talked about it with a ZZ plant, I've talked about it with a fern, bright, indirect light. By and large, most of them will do better. By and large, most of them will do better. So where you've got a lot of your philodendrons, maybe not some of your hardier monsteras that need even more light, but where you've got most of your philodendrons is where these will do well. Put these in medium light, put these in low light, with dense soil as well. No wonder the people can't keep them happy. And again, I know Calatheas is the one topic, whenever I talk about it, there are so many people in the comments, and I appreciate this, and I find this exceptionally interesting. This is me not judging absolutely anybody, but I find it really interesting that this is the one kind of plant that gets this much of a reaction from either people going, absolutely not, or people going, 100% yes, I don't understand why people are doing this. It has been super easy for me. This is the one type of plant. But yeah, in my experience, that has been the case. So light and airy soil mix, more light, and less frequent watering. And I've kept all of the Calatheas that I have relatively happy for years, by the way. Just to clarify that, for years. I know a lot of people just use Calatheas almost like cut flowers. They don't expect them to do too much. But also, I will quickly follow that up with, not only are they generally happy, and I know this, I know there's a reason why this one's looking a bit busted, and it's a white fusion as well. It's kind of its permanent state of being. Some of it is nice, some of it is a bit crusty. That could be said about some of us as well. Some people can be a bit rough around the edges because they've had a difficult life. No judging. But, yeah, this is a plant that, doing everything that I was just talking about, the lighter soil mix, the less frequent watering, and the better light. And again, this is just my experience. I have seen less pests on it and less spider mites. Does it mean that I will never see it? No, it's a Calathea. Somebody on a recent video just said it's just like the Calatheas pretty much at this point generate their own like spider mites. I get it. Same thing goes for the allocations a lot of the time. But yeah. Those are the things I wish I knew. So what did you think? Did some of these things surprise you? Have you got some of your own things that you've learned and you wish you knew when you first were getting these plants? Let us know down below, specifically about this plant. Obviously, as I said at the beginning, if you've got your own things I wish I knew when I was starting off with this specific plant, do let us all know down below, because I think it's important, because Had I found a video like this when I was first starting off with these plants, I'd be like, great, I know what to do. I've got a head start over everybody else. Think of it as giving back to the community. Think of it as passing on information. No judging anybody in the comments. Everybody's experiences might be different because we have talked about this before. Not everybody's conditions are the same. So this is what has worked in my conditions and in my experience. I also specifically chose some of these plants because I have had very similar conversations with other plant parents that are growing them in different conditions with different care than I have, and we've all more or less come to the same types of conclusions. So I thought these were safe bets for me to do more of a sweeping generalization that this probably could be helpful for most people. It still doesn't mean it's going to be for everybody, but it's here for you to enjoy and entertain yourself and possibly learn a thing or two, basically. But yes, I'm gonna stop prattling on and let you enjoy the rest of your day. But yes, hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.